What a moment for Halifax Rugby League.
Austin is through and Warrington dominating. Great try for the Robins. Huddersfield Giants take the points home. He missed it! He's a poor lad. He's got sensational try.
Look out with a drop goal. Leeds gather round in jubilation.
He's hit the post. It's Wellesby. Wellesby might have got the try. Saint Helens are champions once again.
Good evening, welcome to the Last Tackle, our weekly Rugby League show. Delighted to be joined by one of our regular guests, Paul Sculthorpe, and Scully. I'd imagine a pretty happy man after the weekend.
Yes, obviously with me Saints hat on, it was a great win over the arch rivals Wigan. You know, it was great to be there. It was the first one. I've been back to the stadium, and obviously certainly for a derby day for a long time. So. Yeah, great atmosphere. You know, the Saints fans got behind it. It was a bit different, obviously, only being one set of fans there, having banter with themselves. But yeah, great win.
There was a bit of needle in it as well, wasn't there? At times, I mean, awful conditions. The rain just kept coming down, but it got a bit heated, and it had a real Saints Wigan feel to it at times.
Yeah, it did, and yeah, you expect that in a derby game. You know, both teams desperate to win, and probably a bit of frustration there from Wigan as well, you know, with the way the game was going. But I think the weather certainly, you know, contributed to that. You know, I think always when it's very wet, it's always very tight, and you know, there's not as much movement with the ball, so it's easier to line players up on defence. And I think we've seen a bit more of that, and hence a bit more needle.
Well, let's just remind ourselves then. Let's take a look at the action from Saints versus Wigan this weekend.
At their defence, looking for the first points of this game. Louis McCarthy Starsbrook might get them, he's just short. And that was a high tackle. Penalty, and settling for 2 points from the boot of Coote on this occasion.
It always ramps up when they play against this Saints side.
Coote with the kick. Bibby is underneath it. Oh, Bibby hasn't got it. Grace has. And it could be the first try of the game without any reference to the video ref. And go. Looking for only his second try of the season. Not a great pass from Roby. And Wigan were offside again. And this too just edged St Helens further ahead. Just grinding their way into control of the contest. They're just inside the Wigan 10. Roby, here is Fage. Fage trying to get it to Batchelor. Coote picks up and Coote dots it down. And the referee, I think, is going to award the try. He does. Wigan protest. Liam Farrell protests. But James Child has awarded the try. And it's Coote again in the news. His third try of the season. Just tackled short of that Wigan try line, and that's good work. And Wellesby picks the ball up, and the referee had already blown, and Wigan again offside under their own posts. And Wigan desperate on their own try line have been penalised again, and they've been punished again. Down the sidelines, Coote, little kick over the top, turning Wigan round, and Hastings is there. And there was somebody held, and in back play there's a bit of a set too.
Well, I think it's KPP that Barry calls him. He's going to go to the sin bin here. Yeah.
Where you go, mate?
Well, they're really up against it, the Warriors now.
Quick hands, but Percival couldn't take the pass from Wellesby. Ambitious in these conditions.
Player that.
Where you go?
So Isa in the sin bin. Regular on the subs bench this season, in fact subbing all 12 of the games so far. Here is Percival now. Percival shrugs off the first challenge and the second. That's what Saints fans want to see.
To get rid of Jackson Hastings, so powerful. Anyone who plays against Mark Percival say he runs as hard as any forward in Super League, but the speed of an outside back, knowing where that try line is, and having the presence of mind to ride that tackle.
Willie Isa just back on, so full complement for the Warriors, and Farrell is over the line, and Wigan have broken their duck.
Quick one, mate. Quick one.
And Liam Farrell with his 6th try of the season.
Yeah, Scully, we've mentioned a fair bit of needle at times, and I think there was a few players trying to impose themselves on the game a bit. Willie Isa had an interesting one for Wigan, certainly got himself involved.
Yeah, I mean, Willie puts himself about week in, week out, doesn't he, for Wigan? He's a player I admire, to be honest. He's a very physical player. You know, he's very athletic, and as I said, probably with the shot that he got sinned in for, which I thought was probably a bit harsh. But obviously frustration on there of obviously the way the game was going for Wigan.
And Saints doing what Saints seem to do, just to round out the win. It wasn't spectacular. I don't think it was ever going to be in those conditions, as we've mentioned. But one of the things that I took away watching it, you know, if the rumours are true, I can't quite understand why they're letting Lachlan Coote go. No,
I mean, yeah, he's an outstanding player, isn't he? I think he's been brilliant for Saints for the past 3 years. He looks like he's got all the time in the world. You know, he looks a very, very calming influence on players around him, and he's an exceptional player, exceptional goal kicker. So he'd be a big loss to Saints. There's absolutely no doubt in that. I mean, we don't know the reason behind. You know, he's obviously he's not happy with whatever offer's been made. Why that offer's been made and the way it has, I don't know. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm sure imagine the past 18 months has had massive effects on clubs, and how they get through that might just be around, you know, moving on some key players, and unfortunately, you know, that might be the case with Lachlan, but I'm sure there won't be a short list of people wanting him if that's the case.
He was positionally brilliant again at the weekend, and I mean, we've spoken about it quite a few times. It's almost like playing with an extra halfback, isn't it, when you've got someone like that at fullback. On the flip side of that, Wigan were playing with an extra halfback because they're Jackson Hastings at fullback. They just need bodies back, don't they? They're doing it tough at the moment with the players that they've got missing.
Yeah, they do. Firstly, on Lachlan, yeah, I mean, he is a smart footballer, isn't he? He plays what's in front of him. It very much reminds me of Paul Wellens. You know, he thinks 2 players ahead. You know, he can see what's coming. Defensively, he's very good, and attacking. You know, he is another halfback. He's got a great set of hands. He's got the the evasion and the space to the speed. To cause you problems. Yeah, Wigan. I mean, obviously with Jackson, I think he's a key player of their attack, and I think at fullback he's out the game too much. He's relying on others getting the ball to him rather than him, you know, demanding the ball. And I think a big part of his game is his running game. And I think sometimes when you're nearer to the ball, that works better. And I think at the moment at fullback he's relying on players inside him of getting him that ball, and I just think he's not in the game as much. They've obviously got, you know, a big number of key players missing. Bevan French being the main one, because he's a big attacking threat, but obviously he's gone for the year.
And then moving on, of course, to last night's game, Leeds versus Warrington. A little bit of an upset, perhaps. Let's take a look at the highlights from last night.
Kept left it till late. Sutcliffe's kick into a bit of space, and Rob Louis underneath it, and Louis Walker will get away and get over, and Danny Walker gets the try.
There's Warner nailed down a position early.
Here's Ash Hanley, and Hanley has got on the outside. Hanley back on the inside, and Mellor will take the pass. Here's Pryor. Cruz Leeming. Leeming gets the pass to Sutcliffe. Sutcliffe, Briscoe's pass to Ash Hanley, and Hanley has got the strength.
But it all plays into the hands.
Oh, here goes Thewlis, and Thewlis takes them on himself and loses possession. The crowd appeals for a penalty.
Okay, I made the decision.
The former Medway Dragon. Darryl Clark, Ratchford, lovely ball, and Charlie will begin the fight back.
That's a brilliant tackle. That's an outstanding tackle. Austin with a kick across.
Charlie will get 2. Charlie will get 2. And that's about the only consolation for Warrington this evening. Austin's crossfield kick.
Scully, big win for Leeds. That, in context, Warrington had been going well in Super League, but Leeds looked very, very good at times last night, and were good value in the end for that win.
Yeah, they did. It was a massive win for Leeds, wasn't it? Right against the record books. You know, obviously Warrington coming off the back of 5 wins, and 5 big wins. You know, some big scalps in them 5, including Saint Helens. But all credit to Leeds. They got stuck into Warrington, and yet again, I think we've seen that inconsistency with Warrington. That is why they're struggling to win a championship.
It is always that thing with Warrington, isn't it? And Steve Price in his last year still doesn't really seem to have perhaps worked it out, that whole consistency issue. And another team that's having to make big personnel changes and shuffle the pack quite regularly, but they're just a strange one. They can be brilliant one week and then very ordinary the next.
Yeah, it's such a strange. I mean, I did the commentary for Warrington's game against Wakefield, and the defence was terrible. And then they went and beat Saints 6-2. Looked absolutely solid in D. Obviously, stopped Saints from scoring a try, and then again back to the inconsistency. And all credit to Leeds, though. They come at Warrington, and certainly through the front row of Tom Holroyd and Mikolaj Ledsky, I thought were outstanding. Big fans of them two. Two who Leeds can probably build their team around for the next 10 years.
You would have had obviously quite a close look at Mikolaj in the last couple of weeks being involved with England. There's a lot of talk about him. He's coming on leaps and bounds each year, it seems. Just how good is he? How good can he be?
Yeah, I think he can be world class. He's the thing is with Mikolaj, he's got the temperament, he's got the aggression, he's certainly got the physicality. He's a very, very fit, athletic front rower, but he's a big fella as well. And I just like his aggression. For me, a good prop is a prop that wants to run over people. It wants to, take yards off people. Not these who want to play with the ball all the time. You want somebody who gives you that momentum to play on the back of. And certainly if you've got a good nine, playing on the back of Lachlan Ledsky, would be outstanding. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Mick. He's a great kid as well. He's got a great attitude. He's got an unbelievable work ethic. He loves his training. And he's just got all the tools to go all the way. If everything, you need that bit of good luck. But I think he certainly it won't be a case of not working hard enough. He's got that work ethic in him, and he's a great kid as well.
And a player, of course, that's come through that England Knights set up into the senior England side. You've obviously been heavily involved in the Knights, but that is starting to bear some fruit, isn't it, in terms of producing top internationals?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the Knights was brought back for a reason. Obviously, I've been proud to to work with the Knights for a number of years now, alongside Paul Anderson, and the reason was to give these players who were fringe, coming through to the England senior squad, give them a taste of international rugby, that level above, Super League, but in between, obviously playing, for full England against the likes of New Zealand and Australia. So. And it's bearing fruit. We're seeing a number of players, come through like Mikolaj, like Ash Hanley, players who have been through the Knights the past couple of years. And, it was like the tour to Papua New Guinea that we had. That's a great stepping stone into full international rugby. And
on the subject of Leeds Warrington, we are, if the rumours are true, expecting them to announce the signing of George Williams at some point in the next few weeks. How big a difference does he make to them long term? And considering the level of performance they put in against Leeds, how timely could that arrival be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously George is a great player, isn't he? I think it's the worst kept secret in rugby league that he'll be going to Warrington. It's obviously clear he wasn't going back to Wigan. Yeah, I mean, George is a great player. It's funny how all that will come together with obviously what's happening with Gareth Widdop. There's obviously the Blake Austin conundrum as well, how they all fit in there and who stays, who goes, and but George is a key player, and it's obviously a big signing for Warrington.
Warrington almost need to prove to themselves, I think, don't they, that they can string results together, and especially in big games. I mean, we saw in that Challenge Cup semi-final where I went into that game expecting Warrington to put in a big performance and show what kind of level team they're on. They just fell apart. It's almost like there's some self-doubt in there, isn't there, at times?
Yeah, and you wonder that. You wonder about the self-doubt because, Warrington they're certainly not, been shy in spending money over the years, have they? They've gone out to buy success, but it's not happened. So you wonder what that reason is and whether it is a psychological thing or a culture thing within the club that's, they just don't believe that because week in, week out, they're not consistent enough to be Super League champions, and that's proven over the years.
It's difficult at the moment, isn't it? When you look at the league table, Catalans obviously are top of it by 1 win, 10% in this new win percentage world that we live in. But when you've got some teams that have played 13 games and others that have played 10, as I say, it is obviously win percentage. It's quite difficult to work out exactly who the strongest teams are, I guess, at this stage. But the usual suspects are there. Saint Helens obviously in second, but every time that I watch Catalans play, Scully, I just come away from it very, very impressed.
Yeah, they are. They're playing well, aren't they? I mean, they've only dropped 1 game, so far this year. I was looking at the table last night to try and, obviously see where the teams lay and obviously see what the difference is from like first and second, and that 10%. But it is only 1 win more than obviously the next team. But going forward, who knows what happens with fixtures and the thing is for teams to catch Catalan have got to lose. And at the moment, they're in great form. They've got some fabulous players, and mainly through that spine of the team. You look at Sam Tompkins, Arthur Morg, Josh Drinkwater, and obviously James Maloney is a big one, and Mickey McAlorum at 9. So key players, key organisers within the team, and a lot of strike.
Well, let's turn our attention then to this weekend's games. I've spoken to Super League this morning. They have said that as it stands, we are looking at a full fixture list for this weekend, which is more than anything just a massive relief after the last few weeks. It's been carnage at times with some of the games that we've lost. But it kicks off Friday night. We'll just be talking about them. Catalans are away to Leeds Rhinos. Leeds will be full of confidence, of course, after that win against Warrington, but this will be a tough test on Sky Sports. Court to kick off Friday night, Scully.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great game, won't it? Obviously, Catalan, they're the form team in Super League at the moment, and as you said, Leeds at home, coming off the back of a big win against Warrington. So, a lot of young players in that Leeds side who I think will grow in confidence on the back of that performance yesterday. So, expect a good loud Leeds crowd, and it should be a great game.
Catalans, I felt, have always been slightly suspect on the road. It's probably not surprising, really, the amount of travelling they do have to do, but they seem to have nipped that in the bud a little bit this year. And even though Headingley is a tough place to go, it'd be difficult to back against them at times. Yeah, definitely. Well, you'd have to say they're favourites going into the game just off what they've produced so far this year. And they seem to have maybe got used to the travel now. The funny Catalan, because they have the years where they're inconsistent away, and then you've had other years where they've won all their away games and been inconsistent at home, and you just wonder why. And very much like Warrington, you wonder how you can be so good one week and then so disappointing the following week. But I think Catalan are the real deal, and I think I've said it numerous times on the show. I think they've probably got the best player in Super League at the moment is Sam Tompkins. Yeah, he's in outstanding form again. He's almost going through a bit of a renaissance, almost sad, isn't he? You'd have been forgiven a couple of years ago for thinking that when he moved to Catalan, it might have been the beginning of the end of his career almost, but he's just reinvented himself again in that fullback shirt, and times after. Yeah, I think he's probably thrived off it as well. Being that key figure at Catalan and a lot going through him. I know I spent time with Sam last week in England camp and having some good talks with him, and he's thriving off off living in the south of France, and obviously heavily enjoying his rugby. Because he's playing well, and he's got everything. He's got that strike. He can read a game. He's one who can fill in at fullback or in the halfbacks and control a game as well. So yeah, he's a massive part and key figure for Catalan and their success. Wakefield Saints also on Friday night, and it's got a look of a little bit of a banana skin this one. St Helens. Wakefield didn't start well. I thought they were in danger of getting kind of drift a little bit at the bottom of the likes of Lee and Salford, but they've come back strong, and this will be tough, particularly going to Bellevue for Saints.
Yeah, it's always a tough place to go. Is Bellevue? I know them banana skins. I've been involved with them myself. Travelling over to Wakefield with Saints, and this is no different. It's a game that Saints have got to be really, really switched on. They've got to prepare well this week and prepare for a very good Wakefield side, because they're very workmanlike Wakefield. And I think if you give them a sniff early in the game, they stay with you. So it's important, I think, that Saints start fast, and really lay an early platform of what Wakefield are in for.
Moving on to Sunday, 4 games on Sunday, 3 o'clock kickoff, Hull FC versus Leigh. And it just seemed maybe about a month ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago, that Leigh was starting to make big strides and that perhaps that first win was just around the corner. But then in the last couple of games, they seem to have slipped back again. We always expected them to struggle at times this season, boarding to the league late, difficult circumstances. But if they are going to pull off the great escape, we're already kind of getting into that territory where it needs to start now, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. And the longer that run of defeats, goes on, you wonder where the one is coming from. But like you say, they kind of play themselves into competing in games. I mean, nearly turned over Catalan of all teams a few weeks back. But it was always going to be tough for Leigh this year, wasn't it? In late recruitment and late, involvement into Super League, and probably a real small squad and players, that have come from lower division clubs, and you can't fault their efforts within games, but sometimes just some of the quality. And I don't see it getting easier this week away at Hull FC.
No, tough place to go, Hull FC, and they are a team. I think they are making progress under Brett Hodgson. Yeah,
they are. Yeah, certainly defensively. I think you've seen a big switch in their defence and their defensive attitude this year. So obviously Brett's been. I know it's been commented on that. He's quoted on. He's spent a lot of time on defence, and I think you can tell that, because you need a good attack. You need to be able to score points, but it's you need a solid defence as well, and games are built on that.
And then also on Sunday, 3 o'clock again, Hull KR versus Warrington. It seems like a while since we've seen Hull KR play, and they had been putting together some really good form, and they're such an enjoyable team to watch. Warrington obviously will be looking to bounce back from that defeat against Leeds, but this has got the potential, I think, to be a really good game.
It could be a great game, because I think Hull KR will probably get a sniff after last night. The Warrington are wounded and hit them when they're down. It depends how Warrington react to that loss to Leeds. But as you say, Hull KR, they're going to be fresh. They might be a bit rusty because they've not played in a number of weeks, but they certainly up until the COVID break that they've just had, they were in great form. And I watched the game live against Wigan, and just their attitude. They certainly didn't help themselves with errors and penalties, but their attitude on defence to work for each other and scramble was absolutely phenomenal. And I think if you've got that attitude and you can piece together with some good skill, I think what we all know, they love to throw the ball about. What you've not got to be reckless with that. You've got to complete sets, you've got to win field position. But I think if they can do that and score some tries, with that skill, I think Warrington are in for a tough day.
It does feel a little bit with Hull KR, I think, this season, that they've kept that flair and that exciting brand of football, but perhaps just added a bit more structure, a bit more game management to it this season. And for me, I feel that that's what's turned the exciting rugby into results.
Yeah, I think we always say it though, don't we? The teams who like to, some of the Sky commentary last night, they was talking about teams passing. It's no shock in rugby that when you pass the ball, providing it's done right and done within the right part of the field, and obviously the skill level, but you need to ask questions of defences, and Hull KR do that, and when they can back that up with some solid defence and the skill level to not keep turning the ball over, because when you're doing, I don't know how they got through that Wigan game, I'll be honest, because the amount of ball that they did turn over and the penalties, the discipline at times, but they backed it up with some unbelievable effort. But I think if you can get that skill level right and that discipline, they've got the ability to ask ask a lot of questions of opposition defences.
And then another 3 o'clock kickoff on Sunday, this one on Sky, and this is an interesting game. Wigan versus Huddersfield, 2 teams absolutely desperate for a win. Similar to, we were saying about Lee looking like they turned things around a little bit with some of their performances. Huddersfield looked like they turned it around a bit with some of their results a few weeks back, and it looked like Ian Watson started to get the wheels turning a little bit, but they've slipped again, and all of a sudden games like this become very, very big, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and again, it's probably a good time for them to play against Wigan. I think they're coming off 5 defeats, and Huddersfield need to start winning as well. They've dropped a few points, and that'll be a one that hurt. Obviously, losing to Salford for Ian Watson. A game that they'll certainly, predicted to win. Certainly the form that Salford were in at the time. So yeah, I don't know what's happened at Huddersfield at the moment, but they're certainly not in good form.
And Wigan's probably biggest test this week, probably Adrian Lamb's biggest job between now and Sunday, is just restoring a little bit of calm and perhaps restoring a little bit of confidence as well to that team.
Yeah, and there's a lot of young players in there, isn't there? Players who, certainly in the pack as well, who are probably doing it tough at the moment. We know that they're missing a number of key players, like Bevan French, like Zach Hardacre. So yeah, I mean Wigan, they've always got that ability, haven't they, to show that resilience and grind games through. But I think they just lack that bit of quality at the moment, and probably that has built after week over these 5 weeks of just a lack of confidence.
And then rounding off the weekend, Castleford versus Salford. Now, is this the best time to play Cass if you're Salford, a week before a Challenge Cup final?
It depends, obviously, of how Darryl Powell and his team approach this. Is he going with a full squad? Is he going to rest players ahead of Wembley, or do you go into Wembley on the back of a full hit, a full performance? A good win, which I think Castleford will get against Salford, depending if they go with a strong team. Or do you rest key players? The likes of Mitch Shane, Truman, players who he knows have got to be on their best form if they're to beat Saint Helens in the Challenge Cup final the following Saturday.
Salford obviously doing it tough right down there towards the bottom of the table. They've not had it easy either with injuries and player availabilities. Losing players like Callum Watkins for the duration of the season. We've spoken about it a couple of times already on this show. I mentioned it just now with Wigan. Is it as much just confidence and the players convincing themselves that they can go out and get wins in games like this?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think that's all obviously Salford are playing for, isn't it? At the moment, is that win and try and grow that confidence into the following week. But again, Salford, they're capable of turning anybody over on their day. They've not got the biggest of squads, and they've lost key players as well. The likes of Kev Brown, who were real key for how the team plays, and big indicators on other players as well. So, they've done it tough. Obviously, new coach under Richard Marshall for the start of the year. A lot of players, leaving and new players coming in. So it's been a tough year for Salford, but on their day with some of the players that they've got, they're capable of winning. So it certainly won't be easy for Cass, and again it'll be interesting to see how Castleford approach this game ahead of Wembley.
Well, that's this week's fixtures looked at. Well, you've mentioned Wembley there. That leads us on nicely. We are, of course, about a week and a half away from the Challenge Cup final, and there's so many reasons why this is exciting this year. I mean, obviously, a cup final, Challenge Cup, there's so much romance about it, but 45,000 at Wembley for the final, which, in any other year, you'd probably say was a disappointing crowd, but it's going to be fantastic, isn't it, to see that many people at a Rugby League game again? It
certainly is, and I think 45,000 people who will be making some noise. I think they'll be as excited as the players to be there, and I think it's going to be a great game as well. Castleford were probably a bit of a surprise to get there. The current form they was in, and obviously had some great wins in the earlier rounds of the Challenge Cup to get through to Wembley. And we all know Wembley finals are one-off occasions. You can pretty much throw the form book out the window, and it's who turns up on the day. Castleford have got a great side. Saints are obviously going to be favourites. They're the current Super League champions and up towards the top of the table, but that certainly doesn't guarantee you the win.
Certainly not at Wembley for Saints as well. It has been a bit of a monkey on their back over the last decade or so. Is this? I guess this is the perfect opportunity, isn't it, to put that right? And they've certainly got no qualms or worries about winning big games after 2 grand finals in a row.
No, that's it. The players are used to playing in big games, and I don't think the occasion will get to them. It's just a matter of, and who knows, in this crazy weather that we keep getting, what the weather's going to be like on the day. If it's wet, we're renowned for not being the best wet weather team. So there's a lot of factors. But as you say, on current form, you'd have to say Saints are favourites going into it, but it certainly doesn't guarantee it. And it's been a long time coming. Obviously, the last time Saints won a Challenge Cup was my last ever game, so that's how. And I'm ancient now, so that's how long ago it was.
Yeah, it's just a shame, isn't it, that it's not being played 2 days later, and then Wembley could have been full.
I think it would have been as well.
Fantastic news for all sport that we're going to get capacity crowds back. I know that there would have been 12 Super League, or 11, because obviously the rules are different in France, but 11 Super League CEOs last night that were probably punching the air, knowing that we can get fans back in numbers and start building those crowds back up.
Yeah, I mean, sport has been hit so hard, hasn't it? Like a lot of businesses and a lot of industries. Sport is, but it has a wider thing. It's not all just about financial for the clubs or fans getting together. For a lot of people, going to a game on a Friday, Saturday is a big part of their life and their lifestyle, and the mental health and everything that comes with that's great about sport and what it gives you. And for fans to be able to get back out there now in full force, and come the 19th of July, it's going to be great to see. And hopefully fans realise what they've missed over this past 17-18 months, and come out in force and get behind their teams, and let's drive the sport forward.
Absolutely, 45,000 at Wembley, and then back to capacity crowds after that. And we should mention, of course, it's a Saints Castleford final at Wembley on that Saturday. But what a day for Featherstone and York as well, who will play for the 1895 Cup. For clubs like those, it's fantastic that final is played at Wembley, and those supporters have an opportunity, because let's be honest, neither of them would have been looking at a Challenge Cup final, would they, this year? But a great experience and an opportunity for fans to make memories that will last a lifetime. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. Like you said, for the York and Featherstone fans to watch their team on the biggest stage. As you say, maybe it'd be a 1,000,000 to 1 chance of them making a Challenge Cup final, but they're going to get to do that prior to the final and the chance of picking up a trophy at Wembley. So it's fantastic. It's a great initiative as well to get more fans and passionate fans down there to Wembley. As you say, it's just a shame it's not a week later, and we could have filled the place out. But I'm sure it's going to be a great occasion, and let's all prepare for next year and fill Wembley and Old Trafford.